The best speech ever made. Monday marks the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. Below is a transcript of his celebrated I Have a Dream speech, introduced on August 28, 1963, on the stairs of the Lincoln Memorial. NPR's Talk of the Nation aired the speech in 2010. Concentrate to that broadcast on the audio link above. Martin Luther King Jr. and different civil rights leaders accumulate earlier than a rally at the Lincoln Memorial on August 28, 1963, in Washington. National Archives/Hilton Archive through Getty Images. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., 5 reigning years in the past, a super-American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand nowadays, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as awesome beacon mild of hope to hundreds of thousands of Negro slaves who have been seared inside the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to give up the lengthy nighttime of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not loose. 100 years later, the life of the Negro continues to be regrettably crippled via the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty within the midst of a big ocean of fabric prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and unearths himself in exile in his very own land. And so we have come right here nowadays to dramatize a shameful situation. In a field we've got come to our nation's capital to coins attest. The power of Martin Luther King Jr.'s anger. When the architects of our republic wrote the extraordinary words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they had been signing a promissory notice to which every American became to fall inheritor. This observe became a promise that all guys, yes, black guys in addition to white men, might be assured the unalienable rights of lifestyles, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. It is apparent today that America has defaulted in this promissory notice insofar as her residents of coloration are involved. Instead of honoring this sacred responsibility, America has given the Negro human beings awful take a look at, a check which has come return marked insufficient budget. But we refuse to trust that the financial institution of justice is bankrupt. We refuse to accept as true with that there are insufficient budget within the splendid vaults of opportunity of this kingdom. And so we've got come to coins this take a look at, a check with the intention to provide us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have additionally come to his hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage within the luxurious of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Civil rights protesters marched from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial for the March on Washington on August 28, 1963. Kurt Severine /3 Lions Hilton Archive Getty Images. Now is the time to make actual the guarantees of democracy. Now is the time to upward push from the darkish and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit course of racial justice. Now is the time to boost our kingdom from the fast sands of racial injustice to the stable rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a fact for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the instant. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will no longer bypass till there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an quit, but a starting. Those who wish that the Negro had to blow off steam and could now be content material may have an impolite awakening if the country returns to enterprise's standard. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of rise up will hold to shake the rules of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I need to say to my folks that stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the method of gaining our rightful place, we ought to now not be responsible of wrongful deeds. Let us now not are seeking for to satisfy our thirst for freedom by way of drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. Bayard Rustin, the man behind the March on Washington, 2021. We should forever conduct our struggle on the excessive plane of dignity and area. We ought to not allow our creative protest to degenerate into bodily violence. Again and again, we should upward thrust to the majestic heights of assembly physical force with soul force. The astonishing new militancy which has engulfed the Negro network need to not lead us to a mistrust of all white humans, for lots of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence right here these days, have come to recognize that their future is tied up with our future. If you want this channel, please subscribe and like and remark below. Thanks for watching.